$100 trillion, as that's the estimated cost of a global climate bill, silently accumulating. It's a debt you're already paying, even if you don't realize it. This isn't a future problem. It's happening right now, threatening your financial stability. Major insurers, the bedrock of our economic safety, are quietly withdrawing from entire continents. They're abandoning regions, leaving nations and citizens exposed. This documentary will reveal how this invisible collapse is unfolding and what it means for your future. For centuries, insurance offered a shield against the unpredictable. But what happens when the unpredictable becomes the inevitable? What happens when the very mechanism designed to protect us decides the risk is simply too great to bear? The pattern is clear, yet few are connecting the dots. From coastal cities to agricultural heartlands, the safety net is fraying. Let me show you how this unprecedented financial exodus is reshaping our world, one abandoned policy at a time. The system worked because risks were quantifiable and largely independent. A fire in London didn't mean a flood in Venice. This localized nature allowed for diversification, spreading the burden across many unrelated perils. But as the industrial age progressed, interconnectedness grew. New forms of risk emerged. From industrial accidents to global pandemics, the insurance industry adapted, expanding its reach and its models, but always within a framework of calculable probabilities. The core assumption remained. Catastrophic events were rare, isolated incidents. This belief allowed the system to function, absorbing losses and rebuilding. But a new, pervasive threat was slowly emerging, one that defied traditional actuarial science. This threat, unlike any before, is systemic and interconnected. It doesn't respect borders or categories. It's a risk multiplier, turning once isolated events into cascading failures across the globe. The old models are simply breaking. I've linked the source in the description, but a 2022 report by the United Nations Environment Programme highlighted this shift. They warned that climate change is creating uninsurable regions, a term once unthinkable. This is not speculation. This is documented fact. This isn't just an environmental problem. It's a financial one. The very foundation of risk assessment is crumbling under the weight of unprecedented, simultaneous, and increasingly frequent catastrophic events. The system is failing. Consider the wildfires sweeping across North America and Europe. Once seasonal, they are now year-round infernos. Insurers are facing claims that dwarf their reserves, forcing them to make impossible choices. No, they are simply pulling out. In Florida, homeowners are struggling to find affordable coverage as major carriers exit the state. The same pattern is emerging in Australia's flood-prone regions and Europe's drought-stricken agricultural zones. The private market is retreating. Sound familiar? It should. Same pattern, different continent. The financial models that once predicted hurricanes and floods with reasonable accuracy are now overwhelmed. They cannot price the future when the future is so volatile. The official story is that these are isolated market adjustments. The real story is a strategic retreat from an existential threat. Insurers are not just raising premiums. They are abandoning entire markets, leaving millions exposed. For the powerful insurance corporations, this is a calculated business decision. They protect their balance sheets by offloading risk. Meanwhile, ordinary citizens are left with worthless policies or no coverage at all, facing ruin alone. Today, the same pattern of corporate self-preservation is playing out globally. The industry is effectively declaring certain parts of the world, and the people living there too risky to protect. This is a profound shift in global economics. The mechanism is simple, yet devastating. Insurers operate on the principle of risk diversification. They collect premiums from many to cover the losses of a few. But what if the few becomes the many all at once? When climate change creates simultaneous floods, fires and storms across multiple regions, diversification fails. The pooled funds are insufficient. The entire risk model collapses, making traditional insurance impossible. Here's how it actually works. Actuaries calculate risk based on historical data. But when historical data no longer predicts the future, their models break. They can no longer accurately price the probability of loss. Strip away the complexity, and you'll see this. If a region faces a 1 in 5 chance of total destruction every year, no private insurer can profitably offer coverage. The math simply doesn't work. It becomes uninsurable. This isn't prophecy, this is mathematics. The Swiss Re Institute, a leading global reinsurer, confirmed this in a recent report. They project a global protection gap of over $1.8 trillion by 2040, solely from climate-related events. You'll find the source link in the description. Their data shows that the economic losses from natural catastrophes are outpacing insured losses by a widening margin. This means the burden is shifting directly to you and your government. The trick is simple. When the private sector can't or won't cover the risk, it doesn't disappear. It transfers. It transfers from corporate balance sheets to public budgets, to national treasuries, and ultimately to taxpayers. This is the $100 trillion climate bill. It's the cost of uninsurable homes, destroyed infrastructure, and disrupted economies. It's the cost of a safety net that has been quietly dismantled, leaving you vulnerable. What makes this dangerous today is its accelerating pace. Right now, the same pattern of withdrawal is happening faster than ever. Insurers are not waiting. They are acting decisively to protect their own capital. From California's fire zones to Germany's floodplains, insurers are either hiking premiums to unaffordable levels or refusing to renew policies altogether. This isn't a slow decline. It's a rapid, strategic retreat. Entire coastal communities are facing a future where their homes are literally uninsurable. Businesses cannot get coverage for their assets. This creates a cascade of economic instability, impacting property values and local economies. This isn't just about individual losses, it's about national solvency. When millions are uninsured, governments become the insurer of last resort. This means massive public spending, increased taxes, and potentially sovereign debt crises. The promise was that governments would step in. The outcome is always the same: a massive, unfunded liability. In theory, disaster relief is there. In practice, the scale of this problem will overwhelm any national budget. Those who understood the math are pulling their capital. Those who didn't or refused to are left holding the bag. It's a classic wealth transfer, from the many to the few, disguised as natural disaster. Every empire, every company, every system thinks it's the exception. They believe they can manage this. They are wrong every single time. The scale of this financial threat is simply too vast for traditional solutions. The pattern says otherwise. The costs are exponential, the risks interconnected. This isn't a problem that can be contained by national borders or conventional economic policy. It demands a new understanding of global liability. So, what should you take from this? The same tricks and patterns that have led to financial instability throughout history are impacting your future today. Understanding this changes everything about how you prepare. First, understand that climate change is not just an environmental issue. It is a fundamental economic and financial threat, directly impacting your assets and your government's ability to protect you. It's a liability crisis. Second, recognize that the private sector will always prioritize its own solvency. When risks become too high, they will abandon you. Awareness of this corporate behavior is your first line of defense. Third, demand accountability and proactive solutions from your leaders. Relying on post-disaster relief is a losing strategy. We need investment in resilience, not just recovery. Your future depends on it. The World Economic Forum's 2024 Global Risk Report confirms this. They rank extreme weather and critical change to Earth systems as the top 2 global risks for the next decade, with profound economic implications. All sources are linked in the description. This isn't some distant threat, it's a defining financial challenge of our generation. The bill is coming due, and it's far larger than anyone is willing to admit. Philosophical insight. The greatest illusion of our time is that we can outsource our collective risks indefinitely. Eventually, the bill comes home. This is not a bug. This is the design. The math says it is impossible to insure against systemic, interconnected, and inevitable risks. The only solution is to mitigate the risk itself, not merely transfer it. This is the hard truth. If this revealed how deeply intertwined climate risk is with your financial future, if you finally understand that the safety net is fraying, then you're starting to see the bigger picture. Subscribe because the next video will expose the hidden costs of regulatory inaction, showing you how governments are quietly shifting this burden onto future generations. What other financial patterns are you missing? The truth is often hidden in plain sight. This channel has the answers. I'll show you where to look.